This is not the most fun video I've ever filmed. Today I'm discussing Nick Diaz and how he looked yesterday in the interview with Ariel Helwani. Man. Without further ado, let's do it. You know, I'm really bummed out. Nick Diaz is hands down my favorite fighter of all time. Of all time. Close second is Chuck Liddell, but Nick Diaz is my favorite fighter. And I've waited for this guy's return since he laid down in the octagon against Anderson Silva. You know, let me take it back. I was having a conversation the other day talking about how UFCs used to make me feel. They made me feel a certain way. And Nick Diaz's fights always did that. They always brought something from me. I was so emotionally invested in these guys. And the first time I remember watching Nick compete, he was facing ruthless Robbie Lawler. And he comes in the cage and he's hitting himself and he's like, "What? What?" You know, he's cussing at him. "Stockton, Stockton." And I'm like, who is this dude? Who is this dude? And he comes in, he's got this antics. He's like, what, pop, what, pop, what? And I was enthralled. I was on my feet. I couldn't get enough of this guy. He would get hit and I'd be like, oh, and he would hit him back and I'd be like, oh my God. I was so pumped. He's got his hands out. He two pieces him. Boop, boop. And Robbie Lawler just stuns. He goes in. Bah. Puts Robbie Lawler away. Rogan's going nuts. The people in the crowd are going nuts. Nick Diaz looked like a gangster. He was mad. It was awesome. It was awesome. I remember when Nick went on his down run in the UFC and he lost to, is it Joe Riggs? But then he beat him up in the hospital. Did you guys ever hear about the story? Google it. If you haven't heard about that, he beats up Joe Diesel Riggs in a hospital. I like him went like this. Sorry, Chuck. Sorry, Tito. Sorry, Randy Couture. Excuse me, Nick Diaz is coming through. Nick Diaz, okay. I loved him. The dude was bad. Goes into, Elite XC, and he loses, maybe Strikeforce, to the Hawaiian kid. I can't remember his name. He's splits him up. No, I want to go back to the Takanori Gomi fight. Nick Diaz won that fight. He tested for levels so high on cannabis, they said he had to have been high during the fight. I remember a post-fight, him talking about that. He had this big old cut and just big old bruise under his eye. And he was like, man, he hit me with some Hadouken punch. I'm in there boxing people up and choking them out with go-go's. Do you guys remember that? When Nick Diaz boxed up Takanori Gomi and choked him out with a go-go. Go-go Plata. I lost my ever-loving mind when I saw that fight. Later finds out that he's so high, he's probably in there high competing, gets ruled a no contest. Anyone that knows Nick Diaz won that fight. Anyone that I care to listen to will say Nick Diaz got the W over Takanori Gomi when Takanori Gomi was Takanori Gomi. Nick loses out to Carl Parisian, and then his little brother gets into it with Carl Parisian at the Ultimate Fighter house. That was sick. So now I'm like, what's up with this guy? This is like a not as good Nick Diaz, the little Diaz. Could be a huge fan of that guy now. Just because you're Nick's brother, you're in with me. Do you guys remember the passion Nick brings to the cage? He fights Cyborg. Cristiano Giustino's husband, Cyborg. Not Chris Cyborg. She was there. Do you guys remember whenever he beat him after he tapped him out? Nick Diaz runs to the cage and he sticks his face up against the cage and he yells, F-U-B, to a crying Chris Cyborg. Nick Diaz was nuts. I remember him beating Scott Hands of Steel Smith, who was famous for that one punch knockout against Pete Sells. You guys remember this? That's the Nick Diaz I remember, man. So, you guys remember when he fought Frank Shamrock? You guys remember that fight? Frank Shamrock said as he's in there, he can't believe Nick Diaz is saying the things that Nick is saying to him. And as he's in there, he can't believe that these pitter-patter shots are really doing damage. It was the barrage of them. He took so many of these repetitive bop, 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 bop to the head, you're just disoriented. And you've got this guy just talking to you the whole time. You're losing physically, you're losing mentally. Every aspect that you're supposed to be in that fight, you're out of it. Guys, remember whenever Nick Diaz was supposed to get stroked by Paul Daly and it looked like that was about to happen? And then he comes back and knocks out Paul Daly. I can't. What is going on? Gets back in the UFC, fights George St. Pierre. Yeah, he loses round 1, 2, and 3. He did not. Nick Diaz starts stuffing shots in the 4th round. If you go to the end of that fight, George St. Pierre's face is busted up. Now, it's not as busted up as it was against Johnny Hendricks, but it was busted up nevertheless. We never saw that. Carlos Condit fought a smart, scared fight. He beat the brakes off of BJ Penn. Anderson Silva fight was fun, but it looked more like a sparring match. Let's get to the part where I'm not so excited to talk about. Nick Diaz has always had social anxiety. We know this. It's documented. The UFC's talked about it. Usually, he's high as a kite to deal with his anxiety. That's what he does. Nick has often been not able to express himself verbally the way he wants to. Like, it's processing here, how it comes out here is different for us. I remember whenever he started saying the UFC was selling wolf tickets, people thought he was nuts. People thought he was crazy. And then we realized, wolf tickets is a thing. That's a real saying. And that's what the UFC was doing. They were selling wolf tickets. You know, Nick Diaz has that famous quote, to love fighting, you have to hate it. Remember that? The first couple times you hear that, you're like, what is he talking about? Then you continue to listen to it, and you're like, oh, to love fighting, you have to hate it. Makes perfect sense. I worry that there was a video that went around a couple months ago where it looks to be Nick Diaz gets flatlined. I brought it up on a podcast with Sitting Ringside with Arlo Jumper and Roberto. Both those guys are my boys. Rudy was on there too. Does it look like Nick Diaz? Consensus is yes. And he gets starched. I don't like seeing it. As a fan of this sport, the highs are so high, the lows are so low for the fighters and the fans. The ugly beast that rears its head sometimes is CTE. I think he shows symptoms and signs. I know normally whenever you watch a Nick Diaz interview with Ariel Helwani, they say it's kind of like interviewing pit bulls. When you interview the Diaz brothers, because they go like super aggressive, and then they're chill, and then they get stuck on some words, and they get super aggressive is how they deal with it. But Nick Diaz looked like a pit bull yesterday. Watch the video. Like, there's times he's leaning forward and talking to Ariel with his hands. I would have been crapping my pants had I been Ariel Helwani. I would have been scared. Scared. Okay? And I guarantee you, if you talk to Ariel today, he'll tell you parts of that interview he was scared. And he's a liar if he says he's not. Ariel asked him if he's happy, and he says no. His little brother just got kicked in the face, and he's had a bad week. He's more discombobulated than normal, Mike Tyson. So he isn't coherent with his words. He's not forming his sentences. He's not structuring them. He's kind of getting lost in what he's talking about. And then he kind of laughs and he's like, you know what I mean? They know what I mean. You know? And then he gets angry. A lot of us diehard Diaz fans can translate Nick Diaz, and I couldn't translate him yesterday. It breaks my heart, guys. He's my favorite fighter. I just want to see him well. Been fighting since he was a kid. Fought his way out of poverty. God, I hope he has money. God, let him have money in his bank. I hope this isn't a cash grab for Masvidal. Why come back? Because he says he's going to baptize your baby brother? Conor McGregor said your baby brother is making animal balloons with one hand and throwing up gang signs with the other hand. Conor McGregor talked trash about him and his whole team. Conor called you out. None of that made you come back. I had a discussion yesterday on Twitter with a gentleman. Awesome discussion. I don't know if he's a gentleman. I just said that. He's a good person. And they brought up a good point. The point that they brought up was Nick may not go after Conor because he feels like Nate beat Conor twice. Arguably, you could make that argument. First time he did tap him. He stopped Conor McGregor. The second fight, I don't know. I bet you could make a good argument for Diaz. Fourth and fifth, you definitely have it. And third would be up in the air. First and second was Conor by a landslide. There's an argument there. It wasn't a clear win. It wasn't a stoppage like the first fight. These guys have busted up eyebrows. I think Nick's had surgery on his to not split open so much. He tells Ariel yesterday his will split up if he gets in a fight. I don't want to see Nick take any more punishment. I don't want to see him take any more shots to the head. I don't want to see it. And I worry about him. Some people are calling alcohol, drugs, depression, and anxiety for the erratic behavior from Nick yesterday in the meeting or interview. And I would normally say it's Nick Diaz being Nick Diaz. But it wasn't. There was something off. There was something different. Something really different. I didn't like it. To come back against a prime Jorge Masvidal, why? If you're going to come, you got to come, man. You got to bring it. And I don't know that Nick has it in him anymore with that ring rust, that layoff. I don't know that Nick should be fighting with his head. He's fought enough. He's entertained us enough. He's done enough. I hope it's not a cash grab. I hope he's not broke. But why now? Why after all these years? Why are you coming back? Why? Why not against McGregor? Why against Jorge? Don't tell me it's because he said he's going to baptize your brother. Conor said way worse about your brother, you and your whole team. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have we seen the best Diaz that we're ever going to see? Yes. Is he past his prime? Yes. Will he have ring rust? Yes. Is ring rust real? Yes. Does he have a shot to beat Jorge Masvidal? Not a good one. Not a good one. He's got a shot, not a good one. Alcohol, drugs, depression, anxiety, CTE. What do you think is affecting Nick Diaz to make him act this way, to talk this way, to have mannerisms this way? All the above? Is that the Nick Diaz that you want to see get back in the cage? It's not who I want to see get back in the cage. And he's my favorite fighter of all time. Doing this video bums me out. I'm physically, emotionally drained from talking about this, thinking about it. I like him a lot. I like him as a person. I like him as a public figure. I like him as a mixed martial artist. Be well, Nick. Be well. I hope that you have a ton of your George St. Pierre money left. I hope that you have a ton of your Anderson Silva money left. If anyone deserves to be able to retire wealthy in this sport, it's you. You should be so well taken care of and compensated for what you've done to this sport. You should never have to worry to fight again. Maybe it is a pride or an ego thing, but why now? Why not against McGregor? McGregor said and did way worse. I don't know. Find me on Twitter at MMA Docket, Instagram, James_Tiger_Taylor. Hit me up in the comments below. I'll chat with you there. I'll chat with you on Twitter. I'll chat with you on Instagram. Regardless, thanks for staying in. This has been a long episode. I could keep going. Without beating a dead horse, I don't know what else to say. $209, baby. $209.